And happy Sunday. This is PFG Live, brought to you from southern New Hampshire, currently under a tornado watch. No, I'm not kidding. So if you suddenly see me disappear and the headphones are hanging on the microphone and you see a blank screen for a while, that's because we got a tornado warning. Welcome aboard, everybody. We've been chatting away in the Discord server, and I want to say thank you to Josh for the audio check. Appreciate it. WidgetWorks is checking in with 26 degrees science, sunny, no longer snowing in Edmonton, Alberta, Snow, Mexico. Josh is reporting from Charlie X-Ray Mike Delta, which we figured out is a weather station and not an airport code. He's reporting winds at 340 at 8 knots, temperature 18, dew point 14, and remarks are unimportant. Proteum Machining from the Tucson of Arizona is checking in at 91 degrees and 43% in Tucson. So 43% is actually kind of moist in Arizona, is it not? Carl Tauber in the People's Republic of Rhode Island reports 85 degrees and cloudy with a dew point of 75 degrees and surrounded by chlorinated biphenyls. Tuck is here. He says after a heat wave, it's 77 Fahrenheit and cloudy with winds in Buffalo, New York. Are you under that tornado watch there, Tuck? Chris J is here. 89 dungarees Frankenstein in southwest Missouri. So did you send us the tornado watch? Because you guys in Missouri are familiar with those. Greenwood AG is checking in from south central Idaho with the potatoes and the onions at 83 degrees Fahrenheit, west wind 15 to 20 miles an hour. CJ Stevens is with us. 94 and humidity in East Tennessee. Welcome aboard, sir. Ruben is here. Thank you for checking in, Ruben. Sunday. Listen to me. Sunny, 22 degrees science, 55% air humidity, and 14 kilometers per hour winds in Belgium, Ghent. We would say in the United States, we would say Ghent, Belgium, but I respect your life choices. Here in Windham, New Hampshire, right now, it's 83 degrees Fahrenheit, 74% relative humidity. Skies are blah. And from the Manchester airport, we're showing winds at 190 at 04 knots, visibility 9 miles. Clouds are broken at 600, broken at 1,000. Temperature 24, dew point 21, altimeter 2963. And the remarks are ceiling variable 600 to 900 feet. Somebody thought it was important that you knew that, and now you know. Let's see. Who else is here? In the Discord server, we're welcoming Aaron W., Carl Tauber, Ruben, Tucker, WidgetWorks, Pixel, welcome aboard, Daniel F., Unix Carbide, who's on the road, Proteum, Josh, and Thomas Hardy. Happy Sunday. So last weekend was Father's Day, and we forged ahead anyway, which is what fathers do. So today we have no excuses whatsoever. Oh, wait a minute. We have another check-in. Dat2T says 25 degrees centigrade in Bretten, Germany. Welcome, sir. Nice to see you. And yeah, so we'll get caught up. So we have a few things on the schedule. We have some follow-ups. One of the things, I don't think we're going to dwell on it, excuse me, is last week we talked about solvents in the shop. And we might get into it a little more later, but I just wanted to fill in that there was a shop solvent that I didn't cover, and it's sold by CRC, and I know that Adam Booth uses it as a non-flammable spray degreaser. Now, I don't have the correct information, so I'm going to do a little research for next week on that particular solvent because I meant it to be in our lineup and I forgot or ran out of time. So I will Oh, thank you, sir. Yeah, Dat2T says stay safe with those winds. I appreciate it. Right now, there's no sign of anything bad happening. So next week we will follow up on that CRC stuff because I think it's an important thing to know about. We have a couple of topics today, and we have some questions. For those of you on the Discord server, in the PFG discussion channel, there is a thread called 3 questions. And the object is to pull 3 questions from that thread every week. So we have 3 questions from one person in that thread. So we've met the requirements, and we will try to get them toward the end of today's podcast. Yeah. So that's what's going on. So let's see what else is going on here today. Can we talk about stickers? Now, he's not here yet, and I don't know if he's going to show up, but we did get another sticker made celebrating 2 of our regulars that are not here today. But I just wanted to announce them, and we can give them more accolades later. First of all, our in-house graphics designer, DBX, Daniel, whose name sticker is right there, Daniel Berlinger. He designed our beautiful, fancy P1 sticker, which has 2 Latin phrases. And it says, the top Latin phrase, I think we figured this out last week. The top Latin phrase says, 15 minutes is all we ask. And to be honest, I don't remember what the bottom one is. I forgot, but it's funny. So this is the new P1 sticker. In addition, so and that's in honor of DBX. You'll see his moniker is down in the corner there, and that will be in the lineup. And 2 more stickers, of course. I may or may not have shown these before. This is the little P1 sticker and the little P2 sticker. These are 2-inch stickers, and those are going to be in the lineup. And finally, in honor of one of our favorite teachers and most honored guests on this podcast, is a sticker for one Master Robin Renzetti. And this is now I worked with DBX on this design, and I hope Robin likes it or I will be banned. So here it is. This is the I'm no expert sticker. And behind the phrase I'm no expert, it says it is the meter. Of course, in our imaginations, it's set down to 10 microinches per division, and it is just 1/10 of a needle width off 0. And it says, I'm no expert. And Rob Wren's handle is on the bottom. So this is now in the lineup. Get yourself a Rob Wren's honorific. Let's see. While we're here, I figured I'd show you the rest of the stickers that are current. Of course, you saw a couple of weeks ago the Ox Tools honorific, and there it is. Every gauge block starts on a saw. We have one for Bakafish, which says you can't just carrot things willy-nilly. That's chaos. What else we got in here? We have the relatively recent Nas sticker that says stay focused. We have the long-running Get Flat, Stay Flat sticker. And from WidgetWorks, we have the We Do This Not Because It's Easy, but Because We Thought It Would Be, which is also hanging in the shop. We have the Put a Ring on It for the B200 balancing rings. And finally, the last 2 in the collection, I think, we have the holographic Laser Shark, and we have the white Laser Shark, which is actually a pretty rare one. And that's what's in the pile. So why do I bring this up? besides announcing the sticker for Robin and DBX. Thank you, WidgetWorks. We will get to that. I want to talk about stickers. So I have a problem, which comes as no surprise to most of you. I want to send stickers out, but our family here is all over the world. So we were just talking about this in chat. This is a 6 by 8 inch cardboard mailer, and I can send these out in the United States for the cost of first class postage, which is quite reasonable. I think it's 68 cents or something like that. However, if I want to send stuff internationally and call it a letter, it would cost $1.55. No problem. Okay. My problem is that every country is different as to what is acceptable to call a letter. So we're going to have a little contest here, and it actually may be no contest. So if you are on the Discord server, these are the rules, okay? If you're on the Discord server or on YouTube chat, so either chat channel, doesn't matter which, you can just type in a number between 1 and 100, and I'm going to pick two Discorders and 2 YouTubers that I'm sending you stickers, whether you like it or not. And then all you got to do is send me your address. So start doing that now. Widget works. No, not 1, 2. Widget works. What are we going to do with you? Tuck, you picked the correct numbers. Very good. CJ Stevens. You guys are out of control. Okay, so you guys do that, and I'm going to tell you how we're going to work with the international folks. For the international folks, you don't have to pick a number. But for your country, I want you to go to the Discord server and find the thread under General that talks about shipping. You'll see it. It's in there. Josh created it this morning. And if you research the rules for sending first class letter, can I send this 6 by 8 inch by relatively thin cardboard thingy to your country as a first class letter? You check on the rules, verify the rules, put that in the chat, and you have earned yourself a sticker pack. The sticker packs we're talking about are the one of everything sticker packs. So that's the rules. Okay, so we're going to do a drawing pretty soon and see what the numbers are. In fact, I'm going to tell you at 15 minutes after the hour, we will do the drawing. So get your numbers in. Pick a number between 1 and 100. Did I miss anybody there? No, we got him. Okay, so numbers are coming in, and that's what we need. Josh says it's in the general channel, and the thread is called Letter Mail Standards Per Country. There you go. And the reason for this, by the way, is because today I went to the USPS site, and the USPS site said, oh, you're interested in checking on an international letter. Oh, it's only $1.55, but please check to make sure it's okay with the country by clicking this link. I clicked the link, and there was one line per country that is like, I'm never going to be able to do this. So that's why we're assigning ambassadors. That's what you are. You're ambassadors. Okay. So we'll pick those numbers in another minute, and we'll do that. So that's the giveaway. So let's see. I think I hit all the points on that. And as we get creative here and make more stickers, it will be part of the repertoire. And we'll figure, once we get the shipping figured out, we'll figure out a better way to get everybody, the stickers they want. So we have a couple of topics today. I think the first thing we're going to talk about is, we'll just take them in order, is on the topic of solopreneurship. Because I've had to deal with some things lately that led me to think about, business issues with being a solopreneur. And the definition of a solopreneur is somebody who's starts and runs a business on their own. And it has its, unique set of challenges. And I've encountered many of them already. So, okay. We're at we get it. We just got a report here from Ike via another channel. This is not DBX. This is Unix Carbide. He says, Connecticut Highway, the dashboard says 90 degrees F, but I don't believe it really. It's possible. Yeah, WidgetWorks says, like when you have to do a round of layoffs. Yeah, exactly. That makes a difference. Okay, I have my random app here. All right, and this is a drawing for we'll start with the YouTube chat. So the numbers are closed. And the random number is 29. So who got closest to 29? Let's see. Where's the YouTube chat? Here it is. That would be CJ Stevens is 42. I guess it's CJ Stevens. CJ Stevens, DM me your mailing address. We're going to do another one here. Hit the button. 96. And that would be Chris J. Chris J. DM me your mailing address, and you two guys get sticker packs. Now we're going to do the drawing for a Discord. Ready? Let's see who's in Discord. Got your numbers. Here's a random number for Discord. 68. 68 would be Aaron W. Aaron W. Send me your mailing address and I recognize that I think you're international, aren't you? If you're international, yeah, you're down in Aussie land. Okay, that's okay. You're gonna earn it with a little research, so don't worry about that. Okay, let's pick somebody else. Who else is closest to 68? Well, Tucker is closest to 68. So Tuck. I think I already have it, but just send it to me in DM. And one more. 91. I don't know. WidgetWorks, you'll get one anyway. I think we're going to have to give this one to Daniel F. Daniel F., send me your address in the DMs, and we'll take care of you. All right. And if you didn't win on today's drawing and you are in the United States, just shoot me a message. Let me know that you want stickers. All right, we did the sticker thing. So let's talk a little bit about the Solopreneurship. I had a couple of events happen over the last few months, which led me to have these thoughts. And one of them is that, early in my career, and I've been a solopreneur now, you could make the argument for 24 years. Really, it's been longer than that, but my company, Antennasis, was incorporated at the beginning of 2000. So therefore, it's about 24 years. And my attitude about getting work and what work to choose and what work to do is different today than it was when I started the business. When I started the business, I was hungry. And one of the things that was most important to me was eating. So I would take jobs that maybe I weren't exactly on target for me. Okay, they weren't exactly where I wanted to head. But I took them because I had to make money, and I was able to execute them. And there's nothing wrong with that. But as that process continues, you can start to drift from your initial focus. And I felt that I had to, I started making more money and the business started getting solvent. See what I did there? And I was able to start to pick and choose and focus more closely on the direction that I wanted to go in. One of the most important things, for me was that I was a subject matter expert in the area of antennas. And I would get jobs that weren't exactly antennas, but we were able to do it. And that led to income. As time passed, so that was, 24 years ago, Widget Work says, try anything until you find the path that works for you. Don't stay locked into what you think you want to do, aka follow the money. You're not wrong. And I have been through layoffs as an employed person, and that was, that left a couple of scars. And I did do jobs that made money that, were off focus. Ruben says, pivot, pivot, pivot. That's what they learned me as a starter. Yeah, the ability to pivot and the ability to change your direction is a very important thing, as long as the pressure to get back to your focus is always there. So that's the way it was in the first, the first third of my career. I guess that's sort of a, normal way to think about these things, the first third. The middle third, I actually started to be able to say no to jobs that weren't me being a subject matter expert in antennas. And in fact, one of the things that I started focusing on was national security. That was my goal, was to be a contributor to the national security. And we did things that were toward that goal, and we did things that weren't toward that goal because we had to pay the rent. But if they were antenna related, I was good with that. In the world of antennas, you have the if you want to think of it this way, there's the consumer related antenna work, and then there's the, let's just say, high tech or other. And my interest, the money, there was a lot of money in consumer product related antennas, embedded antennas, and helping with product designs. I have done a lot of that. And they really needed it. They really needed somebody who was an antenna expert, and they really needed their wireless stuff to work. So that was a very large part of the middle third of my career. Widget Work says, we've all done things that we aren't proud of to pay the rent. So I think the aren't proud of part was in the first third. I think I did things that I wasn't proud of. I think in the middle third, I was proud of my work product, but not all of it was in the direction I wanted to go. But we did a ton of it. And I could name names of products, and you would recognize, most of them. And some of them you won't recognize. We also did work on products that just failed. And that's the way it goes. During that period, I think I learned to be a gun for hire. And what do I mean by that? I mean that if a company came to me and they had antenna work for me, check. Maybe it was consumer product embedded antenna related, fine. But I looked at the product and I said, you know what? That product sucks. That's not my call. I don't make the call as to whether the product is good or not. So I did a good job, and I made sure I delivered for my client, and their product had to do what their product did. And sometimes it succeeded, in some cases very, very well. And in some cases the products failed and they were done. But I could sleep at night knowing that I did a good job for them. So that was a bunch of work. And then in the third of that period, which we're in now, I still get those calls for product for consumer related embedded antenna things. And I have learned to say no to some of them. I have to say no to them. You can't see it, but right on my monitor here, I'm reaching over is a 3x5 file card. Does anybody know what that 3x5 file card says? Some of you might have known this already. It says no. And it's my way of reminding myself that I can't say yes to everything. And I have put myself in uncomfortable positions by saying yes to projects that I probably should have said no to, for a lot of reasons. One of the reasons is the product is not something you believe in. It's not something you can get behind. And that was, some of those, you have to say no to. Widgetwork says, I say yes, but I add a lot of zeros to the quote if I don't want to do it. Yeah, a friend of mine, Steve, taught me a long time ago the phrase, yes, and here's how much it will cost. So the way you say no is by moving the decimal place. That should be a sticker. Okay, sketch out the sticker, Thomas, and we'll get on that. Carl Tauber quotes Thomas Watson, Sr., quote, stick to your knitting, close quote. Anyway, I like what Josh says. Josh says no is spelled with a 0. Excellent. So that was, that it's kind of hard to say no in the beginning. It gets easier to say no in the middle, and then in the third act, it's really easy to say no. Sometimes it hurts, but you have to say it. Ruben says, that's how I found out my hourly rate was too low. It's bad when they immediately say yes to such quotes. I fully agree with you. You should increase, as a solopreneur or as a consultant, they're different. You should increase your rates until a percentage of your approaching potential clientele say no. If nobody ever says no to your rates, they're too low. Totally agree with that. I recently raised my rates. So I guess that's the first thing is knowing how to stick to your course that you want to be on by being willing to say no to the things that are going to drag you off course. I think that's a really, really important thing. Another thing that is also making hard decisions is when a customer comes to you with a project as a subject matter expert, and you look at the project and you realize it is complete bullshit. I don't use the term lightly. In my world of antennas, antennas are considered black magic by many people. And I used to, in the beginning of my career, I'd say, no, it's not that complicated. Let me explain it to you. And then toward the end of, my current career, I say, yes, it is black magic. Now, is there ink in the pen? I'm kidding, but if a client comes to you and they're like all excited about their product or their invention or their system, and you as a subject matter expert, you look at this thing and you say to yourself at first, that's complete bullshit. What do you do? In the beginning, in the first third of my career, the answer is you take the job. If their money spends, you do it. We had an early project that was like that. Well, I'll tell you one story from early in my solopreneurship. We had a guy come in and he had 2 PhDs working for him. And he had a R&D product that he wanted to develop. And it was about I'm not going to name names, but it was about proteins, and it was about affecting protein structures using radio frequency energy and monitoring such changes with chromatography. So I'm not an expert in chromatography, and I'm not an expert in protein change proteins, although I married one. But it was weird. But he had 2 PhDs working for him, so we took the job. Well, we actually designed this really cool product that did the job and controlled all the RF fields and did all that stuff. And then I started hearing from the PhD guys that the principal was not listening when they told him things. And they eventually both left. They quit. And there was this third guy, I don't want to get too deep into it, who started advising him and taking money, except what he was telling him to do was illogical. I'll leave it at that. And then he came to me and he said, well, here's what we want to do. And he was getting fed a line by this other guy that was complete nonsense. And I looked at him and I said, look, I'm not going to do that. I did the first thing, and we did a great job of it. And now what you're describing to me that the third guy said is complete nonsense. So let me explain to you, Mr. Client, the best way I can help you. You should hire me to be your interpreter of the technical stuff so that you can make sound decisions, because I think you're being led astray. I am not going to design this thing. I'm not going to deliver this thing to you, but I will make myself available as a subject matter expert, and I'm going to help you. He went away. And the phone stopped ringing. And I was okay with that. I was very sad because this guy was under the influence of this other guy who I think also had a PhD after his name, as if it matters. But he was just pumping him for money. And I wasn't going to take that money. So that was the beginning of a little bit of wisdom. More recently, I had another client come to me, and he explained a thing to me. I'm not going to get into it. And I said to this client, that is nonsense, complete nonsense. And then he said to me, we have a problem. I'm like, what's the problem? He says, we're making a lot of money on this right now. And I'm like, you are? Yes. So I said to him, you can use me to tell you the truth. I will tell you the truth. If it's nonsense, I'm going to tell you the truth. If it's got some shred of reality, I'm going to tell you the truth. That's how you can use me. It was similar to what I did before, but this was much quicker, much more abrupt. And you know what? He loved me for it. He said, that's exactly how I need to use you. And I became a consultant to him, and I became a resource and a subject matter expert. And it was amazing that this guy who had a business built on a thing which I thought was utter nonsense was still willing to listen to the truth, because he had to navigate this ship. So it's not easy saying no. It's not easy making some hard decisions. It's not easy looking at a client and telling them the truth, which in all likelihood is going to lead to you making no money. But you have to do it. So these are some of my stories of solopreneurship. But most recently, let's see, Carl says, really important to know the difference between decisions that are difficult and those that are painful. Wow, Carl. I have to dwell on that one, but you're right. And also Proteum is recommending the Pumpkin Plan book. I have no knowledge of this book, sir, but I trust if you liked it, I would like it. Tucker seconds it. The Pumpkin Plan is the name of the book. So let me tell you about some good news more recently. So more recently, I've been working on a project, which is a design for a very specialized communications box, which I've talked a little bit about, not in detail, which has to go out in the weather. It has to withstand high RF power. It has to do a bunch of stuff. And it involves a housing, and we talked a little bit about the housing, and we're going to talk about that today. But I was sitting in my office designing, and I would hang out on Discord. And some of our Discorders would show up, and we'd talk and we'd chat, and I'd talk about some of the problems I was having. And I started getting some collaboration, some ideas. This is the water cooler. This is the modern water cooler. So here we are sitting on Discord, and I'm beating my head against a specific part of this design that was just hard. And Hans, one of our guys in Discord, says, you know, you could also do it this way. And he kind of flipped it on its ear. And I looked at it and I'm like, that is a great idea. And it unstuck my thinking. And it turned out that neither what I was going to do, nor exactly what he said was the right idea, but there was this mix of them that turned out to be the right idea. And the design proceeded. So that's Discord. And the online collaboration tools, the online community tools were all really developed as a result of the pandemic. Where would we be without the pandemic? So that was pretty cool. That happened with the box, right? I had to seal this volume, which we'll talk a little bit about. That happened with Unix Carbide, because he was brainstorming about a 3D printer that he's designing and building, which needed to have some damping. And we started talking about ways of damping the structure of this 3D printer. And lo and behold, I was the guy now sitting at the keyboard warrior, and I did a little searching, and I came up with this paper that I found that directly affected his problem. The paper was called Damping Performance of Particle Dampers with Different Granular Materials and Their Mixtures. And it was the answer. So we dug through this treatise, and we got to the bottom line, which was this mix of rubber particles and basically lead shot of the right size and the right proportions, et cetera, et cetera. And you can see, if you're watching the video, you can see my highlights in this paper. And 20 minutes later, Unix Carbide had this stuff ordered, and like 2 days later, he had it in his hands. He's got it right now. That was a result of using the groupthink and using Discord, and that was pretty cool. So those are that's good news about being a solopreneur today, is that we have these amazing tools. But I think it's really important to stay focused and to stay on target, and talk to your fellow, nerds. There, I said it. And you can come up with more solutions that way. Okay. To change the topic, I'm going to take a sip of tea. I've been designing this box, and it's going out in the weather. And one of the things I realized is, and I learned this many years ago, was that you could approach a electronics enclosure one of two ways. You could hermetically seal it, or you can vent it. And that's rule number one. And rule number two is there's no such thing as hermetically sealing it. So everything leaks. And so what I've done over the years is I've designed things where I control the leak. So I have an example, for example. This is not the current project. This is an old project. This is an antenna. You can see how exciting antennas are to look at, right? But if you look at the back of this antenna, which if you're not watching the video, this is about a 14 by 14 inch by about 4-inch deep box. One large face is a fiberglass covering, which is the radome, and the back has a connector on it, but it also has what looks like a gas connector, right? A threaded connection for gas, and that's what it is. So this can be pressurized. You could put a 1 pound per square inch, or whatever, or you can seal it. Okay, and on the other side of the threaded flange is a sintered metal filter. Okay, and I don't remember the specs on it, but the idea was that particulates could never get through that thing. But if you wanted to hook it up to a pressurization system, which would have a little teeny bit of pressure, that would keep the moisture out of the box. And this was a pretty standard thing in RF. You'd have long coaxial lines that go up to roofs or whatever, and you'd have dry nitrogen pressurizing it to 1 pound per square inch, for example. So my design philosophy is not, well, that's not true. I have done hermetically sealed cavities. I think I showed last week, I showed an antenna I designed, which looked like a stick. That was hermetically sealed. Hermetically, that's in air quotes. But this antenna has a much higher volume, so I chose to not seal it, but give it a controlled way of dealing with it. Yeah, WidgetWorks says, I use the call a friend card all the time when I run into a brain blockage. Funny thing that WidgetWorks says that, because WidgetWorks is one of the guys I phoned a friend to, call a friend, this week when we were talking about this box. So, so on the topic of these vents, it turns out, and of course, if you looked at the thumbnail of today's YouTube video, you'll see this screw depicted in the thumbnail, and there's a hole through it. And these screws are vent screws. And one of the tricks you can do is you can change one of the screws for one of these vent screws, and you can vent a enclosure in a controlled manner. I've used that before, but the other possibilities, if you're watching the video, this shows 2 other vent possibilities. Let me describe what they are. The one on the right is a sintered metal orifice. So it's rated it's like a size exclusion filter. So in this case, it's 40 microns. So air can pass through this device, but nothing bigger than 40 microns can pass through the device. So it's highly unlikely that water is going to pass through it in a normal atmosphere, getting rained on, etc. But it will allow it to vent. The device on the left is similar, except it uses a piece of membrane material, which will let water vapor go through, but it won't let liquid water go through. So that inherently will allow the inside of a volume to stay dry. Chris J says, fun fact, underground telephone cables are pressurized. Yes, all for the same reason. So, and by the way, if you're an expert in that, we need to talk, Chris, okay? So I decided that we're going to take a 2-pronged attack to this device that I'm doing currently, which is going to live in a marine environment on the shore, right? So it's got salt air, and we're going to use a sintered metal vent on the outside, okay? And then the hole that goes through the wall on the inside, I'm going to use a stick-on membrane. And between those two things, I'm confident that I'm going to keep water out and keep the air pressure equalized. The other alternative is my client says to me, this is a stupid idea, in which case we just take a screw and put it right in the hole. That's a 1032 threaded hole. So I could either have this device there or a little drop of Loctite on a regular 1032 screw, and it goes right in, and boom, it's sealed. And we can go either way. So this was an interesting design decision because it's reversible. It's reversible in the field, which was also how I designed this antenna that I just showed you. So my philosophy is control the environment. Sealing it tight is fine as long as you can explain to a 6-year-old how it's never going to fail. It's never going to fill up with water. It's never going to corrode. If you could explain that, have a ball, seal it up. That's great. But when I was talking to WidgetWorks, we were talking about other parts of the system that needed sealing. And when I explained to him what I was doing, he used some, I think the exact words you used were, oh, this is an ingress problem. In other words, ingress of water versus a pressure sealing problem. I'm like, yes, it changes the problem. So what we're doing on the vent is as described. We're going to put that in, and then on another part of the product where we do want the seal, because we've now designed where the leak is, right? This is a controlled, designed leak, and then we're going to seal the rest up with Loctite 518. So this is on order. Loctite 518 is a sealant. I'll read you from the good book here. It says it's a single component, medium strength, anaerobic sealant, which cures when confined in the absence of air between close fitting metal surfaces and provides resistance to low pressures immediately after assembly of the flanges. And it goes on to say, words and things. So this box that I'm designing right now is going to be completely sealed really well, and then it will have a controlled vent. In engines and things, I think having vents is sort of a normal thing to think about. My world, I usually have this very static box that if it has to be outside, we still have to think that through. So think about that when you see electrical boxes. These, I use them for antenna stuff, these plastic electrical boxes, and the lid has this O-ring seal, and you tighten it all together. If you did not plan on how it's going to breathe, it's going to breathe some way, and it might not be the way you want. So that's the message. Hermetic seals are a lie. And the marine environment is not friendly. The fact that the air is always moist, the fact that there's big temperature swings, and the fact that there's salt water spraying on your stuff is all difficult. Now, I'll tell you a story about materials. As a volunteer to the high school, we were doing high altitude balloon experiments, and the project was to send a balloon transatlantic. Well, one of the launches made it to Newfoundland, off the coast of Newfoundland, and then crashed into the ocean. And we were still tracking it because we had a satellite tracker on it. And eventually we recovered it, which is even better. The bottom of this electronics package had what we call a turnstile antenna that I designed out of measuring tape, steel measuring tape, which was not an uncommon thing to use for satellite experiments and such. So it had 4 of these elements going out at 90 degrees to each other. And in the middle was this piece of plastic. It was black Delrin plastic. And on the bottom of the black Delrin plastic, I put a label. And the label said, turnstile antenna, 144 to 150 megahertz, and some other nomenclature. And I put it on there with a label from my brother, TZ Labeler. Well, this thing goes down into the drink, and we track it for weeks, and it gets to Newfoundland, and it gets picked up by a fisherman. We then have to negotiate with this fisherman and his wife, who apparently thought they discovered America, and they got this treasure, and they were going to extract money from us. It was not pleasant. But eventually, we sent them $75. We got our stuff back. When I got the antenna back, the steel, Carl says, hermetic seals are real, but really temporary. Thank you, Carl. So I get this thing back, and by the way, it was all working, right? Thanks to our hermetic seals. But the steel tape measure elements of this antenna had completely corroded away after 6 weeks of bobbing around in the North Atlantic. Not a shock. Gone. Corroded. You could see the corrosion marks on the stubs that were sticking out of the plastic. And you know what didn't go away? The Brother TZ label that was on the piece of black Delrin was utterly intact. If I show you that today, and I tell you that this thing was bobbing around in the North Atlantic for 6 weeks, you would not believe me. You would tell me I'm lying to you. It was absolutely amazing. So there's an example of a not expensive product that we use all the time. I could probably, if I look around, I could probably find something that I've labeled. Well, here, I did show you something. These labels on this antenna that I just showed you, they're all over the place, right? I use it all the time. And that stuff is awesome. So Josh says you should have covered the metal in labels. Well, you're not wrong, but this is not what we were planning for, right? It had to be up in the air, and we were not planning on that antenna being useful, bobbing around in the ocean. And it wasn't. But I digress. There's other parts of that design that were pretty cool. So that's a story about that housing and venting it and controlling the venting. More to follow. That design is coming in for a nice landing mechanically, and then we have to go into electrically. We're going to do complete electromagnetic simulation and get that thing finished. I was approached by a friend, actually, a guy I've known for, most of those last 20 years, and his daughter was looking for an internship, and we may have her come on the PFG.Live maybe next week to talk about this project. But essentially, I bought an Einstar scanner, 3D scanner, Clow 42. James Clow bought one of these and has been using it successfully. I actually consulted with him on email. He's really super nice guy, and we chatted, and it was enough to push me over the edge. So I bought one, and when the opportunity came for this intern to do some work here in the shop, I said, okay, here's your project. We're going to take this 3D scanner. And by the way, she's in biomedical engineering. Excellent student, excellent engineer. And I said, let's take this scanner. Here's the goal, simple goal. Number 1, scan a thing. Okay. Number 2, we're going to print the thing. Basically, we're going to do the Star Trek replicator. Okay. Scan a thing, print that thing, and we should be able to look at them and say, yep, we've duplicated it. And then the next part of it was to write the manual for the next person to do the same. So we want a document that I could hand the scanner and this document to somebody, and they could follow your instructions, and they could replicate your success on the next job. So that project is underway, and many things are being learned. Many things are being learned. There's a big difference between scanning, handheld scanning, where you're moving the scanner around and it's getting accelerometer information, versus using a turntable. Totally different animals. The software has limitations. You have to gather a cloud of measured points, turn those into a solid model, turn that solid model into a 3D print. Not trivial. Big roadblocks in each one of these steps. So I can report that we've achieved, we've gone from a scan to an STL file that's okay. And in fact, here's the thing we've been scanning. Okay, it's this little giveaway thing. It's cute. And it's a little man with a sandwich board that says "Our service rocks," but it's not easy, and we're not there yet. But we're close. We're getting closer. Yeah, WidgetWorks says that's a big manual. Should only take 10,000 hours to read it. Actually, it should be less than 10 pages. That's my goal, is to be able to hand it to you. Hand you the Einstar scanner, and you should be able to scan a part and get a useful model out of it. That's where we're going. Now, James has been getting useful information from his Einstar for a while now. And you could hear him describe it. It's adequate. It's sufficiently accurate results. It's a little painful sometimes. All of those things we're agreeing with, and the software is a large part of it. The software is kind of painful. The price point of this scanner was about $1,000, just under $1,000. And meanwhile, I went and I visited FormLabs a few weeks ago, and they have a scanner the size of a large toaster oven. Kind of maybe the size of two toaster ovens, two of the large toaster ovens, and they. Tuck asks, what is the target item size? Could you scan a human? Yeah, the Einstar can scan a human. You move around with it. And the other thing we're finding, the car guys love it, by the way, Tuck. The car guys scan the front end of a vehicle, and then they design stuff for the vehicle. So there's a difference between a scanner that's optimized for small stuff and optimized for big stuff. You could make the argument that the let's see, how big is this? The 4-inch the 4-inch widget that we're not widget, sorry. The 4-inch toy that we're playing with here is a little small. So that may be part of the problem, but that's okay. I mean, we're getting there. We're getting closer. So the guys at FormLabs in their shop, they have this suitcase sized widget, which does scans on parts, but gets 10 micron accuracy measurements, and they actually use it as a 3D CMM. So we know it's possible by moving the decimal point over 2 places to get something that will do super accurate work. The Einstar scanner is not that device, but there's a usefulness to it, and if we can land the airplane and get to the point where, yeah, it's useful to, let's say, 10,000ths of an inch for things that are at least the size of a softball, fine. That would be great. That would be a terrific place to land. So we're working on it, and we will report. It's a work in progress. So stay tuned. I'm checking my checklist here. So we're about to wrap things up. And I think we're going to keep it tight today because we went over last week by about 15, 20 minutes. And I'm going to save some of the questions that I have in the Discord for next week. and call it a day. If anybody has any questions, comments, or snide remarks in the chats, go ahead and fire away. And again, I will be looking for your sticker responses in that in either direct messaging or that thread, that shipping thread over there, and we'll get you guys some stickers. CJ Stevens reminds us to hit the like and subscribe before you go. Thank you, CJ. And also, if you need something flat, head on over to PFGstones.com and get something that's PFG, because that's how we roll here. You guys are awesome. See you next week. And I will remind you once again to get flat and stay flat, and have a good one. Doink, doink.